Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. I am so glad that you're joining us today. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button, no matter which way you're tuning in to us, because we want to stay connected to you. And of course, you know, all things to optimize our health means we cover the physical, the emotional, and the mental components that really comprise our life. So what happens when life throws you a curveball? What happens more specifically when life gives you lemons? When life throws you lemons, however you can visualize it, the idea of overcoming obstacles is something that we must be able to master. And I'm excited about our guest today because she is a beacon of that, of just doing that, being able to be resilient in so many different ways. And without further ado, take a look at this. Let's get to know her. Meet Shari Bookstaff, once a tenured marine biology professor near San Francisco, living her childhood dream. Her life took an unexpected turn when she started experiencing dizzy spells and nausea, leading to the discovery of a benign brain tumor. Described as an easy, routine surgery, the procedure instead resulted in a devastating stroke that impaired her ability to breathe, eat, talk, hear, and move. Shari's hospital stay unexpectedly extended from 9 days to 9 grueling months of rehabilitation. Through this harrowing time, the unwavering love and devotion of her children, then only 12 and 8 years old, gave her the will to fight and reclaim her life. Today, Shari is a beacon of resilience, embodying determination, hard work, and positivity. She shares her inspiring journey in her book, When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice, where she teaches us to find and cherish the cranberries, those moments of joy and triumph amidst life's toughest challenges. Shari also has channeled her experiences into action, founding Lifetime of Impact and Impact of Empathy, organizations dedicated to enhancing empathy in healthcare and improving workplace environments. She continues to advocate for STEM education and marine conservation, proving that even the toughest challenges can lead to profound impact and healing. Shari Bookstaff, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited about our conversation. One of the things that really intrigued me is the ties with what you studied with what you do now. Can you talk a little bit about marine biology? Of course, many who are not in that can be quickly intrigued by how you started to study that and where that led you.
Right. It's a little interesting because I did grow up in Wisconsin, which, as you know, if you look at a map of the United States, is not anywhere near water. And I really liked whales and dolphins. So I started out going to college at University of Wisconsin, and then I came out to California for graduate school to study whales and dolphins. And when I came out here, I found out that I got seasick. So I couldn't really, do research on a boat. So I didn't settle on teaching. I loved teaching. So I got a job at a community college, and I worked my way up from there, incorporating whales and dolphins into everything that I did. And I just did a lot in the community with whales and dolphins. And then, I was working as a tenured biology professor. And as you heard in the intro, I started getting sick in the middle of nothing, and there was no reason for me getting sick. And I was diagnosed with a benign brain tumor that I had to come out right away. And the rest is what we're going to talk about more today.
Yes. And, as scary as that is, brain tumor, because that means that now there's a very specific protocol to heal from that. Looking back, were there any signs whatsoever, any suspected signs, even if so that wasn't something that was able to be concluded?
Getting dizzy and nauseous totally out of the blue was my first sign that anything was wrong. I mean, I was perfectly healthy. I was running with my dogs. I had 2 little kids. I was dating again. I had just gone through a pretty bad divorce. So, everything was going well in my life. My career was going well. My kids were doing well. Everything was going well. And then all of a sudden just started getting dizzy and nauseous. There were really no warning signs at all.
So then you get the care, and from 9 days to 9 months, was that something that was just evolving with how much care you needed, or was this something that baffled the specialists who were working with you?
At first, it did baffle the specialists. I mean, I was so out of it. I just heard stories after, later. They thought maybe I was allergic to latex. They really had no idea why they could not extubate me, but they knew that they could not extubate me. Every time they tried, I would stop breathing. So I ended up getting a trach tube put in and going, to different parts of the same hospital for weeks. And then I guess at some point they must have decided that I had a stroke. And so, just staying in the hospital, and really almost had to fight to stay in the hospital. Of course, at the time I didn't want to, but people around me, my family, knew that I had to, if I had any hope of coming home and living a normal life, I had to be in the hospital and be in rehab as long as possible. So they wanted me to go home much earlier, and my family really did fight for me to continue in rehab. And I went to 3 different rehab hospitals while I was in under care, in inpatient care. And when I came home, I was still not walking without a walker and not, driving or not doing much, but I could, do some things on my own. And with some help at home, I can do some things on my own. And I've improved a lot since then. I walk, I drive, I go for long walks by myself. So I do a lot since I've done a lot since then. And actually, what's impressive is that at one point when I was in rehab, I could stand unassisted for 9 seconds. And that was like a big deal. It's like, look, she can stand for 9 whole seconds. Now I give talks where I'm, walking around talking for an hour. Or I do events where I'm up for 3 hours and walking around. So there's really no limit to how much I can stand. Now,
Did they say, or were they able to conclude how intense the stroke was? Because it sounded like as time was progressing, that more was happening to your body. Was it a specific type of stroke that they were eventually able to say that you had, or was it just that there was unexpected symptoms as a result of your brain tumor
they said based on my symptoms that it was a stroke of the cerebellar artery. Your cerebellum is the base of your brain where you have coordination and balance. So my symptoms lined up with their diagnosis of this certain type of stroke. And that's, they didn't do a test for it. They looked at my symptoms and said, it's this kind of stroke. And once I had the stroke, the rest of it was just recovering.
Okay. How much of that time do you remember? I know you said that that it seemed like you caught parts and
Right.
little snippets along the way. What do you remember of your abilities, perhaps the earnestness of wanting to convey a message and maybe feeling limitations? What were some things that you went through that just were a true challenge, but obviously allowed you to conquer as you got
Right.
better?
I mean, I remember a remarkable a lot because I wrote a book about this whole thing with a lot of details of what happened while I was supposedly unconscious and couldn't, just because somebody can't communicate doesn't mean that they can't hear and comprehend. And things that certain doctors said to me, I remember clearly. Things that certain therapists did to help me, I remember clearly. And some are good, some are not so good. And I remember everything really, really clearly.
Can we talk about the things that were helpful looking back that really made a difference for you to have the will to keep moving forward?
Yeah,
And then can we touch on the things that, we need to know to
right,
not
right.
do
Well,
in the case of
sorry.
compassion and care?
One of my favorite stories is my speech therapist, who I actually saw. I still keep in touch with her. This is 18 years later. And she would come into my room, and on the room of my hospital room, on the wall of my hospital room, I had a poster of whales. So she would come into the room and she would see the poster of whales. So instead of having me read random words on a card, she would have me recite the names of the whales on the poster. So she'd point to a whale, I'd say gray whale, humpback whale, blue whale. And then she would do it again and make me say the scientific names. So Megapronoviangli, Escherichius robustus. Now you don't know if I'm saying them right. She didn't know if I was saying them right, but I knew that I was trying to say them right. And what that did for me is it obviously did exercise all the muscles in my mouth that you need to, but it also made me realize that I still remembered the names of these whales. And okay, so I'm a whale geek. I remember the names of whales, but I remembered them, and what that did not just worked on speech therapy, but it gave me hope that I would get back to being a marine biologist someday.
And I think that's brilliant because when we think of the scientific names, you might as well be saying supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, or how
Right.
I feel like the interpretation is. The brilliance behind that, there is that exercise piece to really keep you on your toes. That's pretty brilliant of her to do.
Right, because they work so many parts of not only my mind, but also my heart. They got my heart back into it. Like I can do this. So
And
that was brilliant.
yes. And so what were some things in terms of compassion and the level of care that you got that were foundationally helpful and so supportive that words could not describe? What were some things that helped you through that journey?
One of my therapists was just really compassionate, almost a friend. But I was an inpatient, so I saw him every single day. But we go out to the back porch, and he would have me walk. We had spinning contests over the railing. I remember that. So we did some fun stuff. And actually, at this hospital, the therapists all work together, and we had like wheelchair volleyball with balloons. And then to make it speech too, every time we hit the balloon, we had to say the name of a state. So making games out of, therapy just gave us a little bit of a sense of fun, and like we're not just in a hospital. We're in a place where we're all getting better together, and that did help.
That's pretty brilliant. Now I've got it. Now let's flip the script for a second.
Okay.
What were some things that you experienced that in hindsight you're like, and that's what you must not do
Not
when someone is trying to heal from something
right.
like that?
Not even in hindsight, but when I was on a gurney outside of the operating room, getting ready to have my trach tube put in, which of course is an operation where they actually cut your throat open and put a tube in. I mean, so I'm lying there. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. And the surgeon thought that I was worried about having a scar when this was over. So he told me that Catherine Zeta-Jones, who's a famous actress, famous, beautiful actress. I don't know if anybody in the audience these days knows who she is, but married to Michael Douglas. But she's beautiful, and he tells me that she had a tracheotomy when she was a little kid, and you can't see her scar anymore. And even though I was not able to communicate at all, I was like, really? You think that's what I'm worried about? So having a scar, if I ever survived not being able to breathe, was not what I was worried about. And if you look at a close up of Catherine Zeta-Jones's neck, you can see a scar. But that's irrelevant. She's Catherine Zeta-Jones. I'm not striving to be her. But yeah, so he just got it all wrong.
And that's a great example because you're under a high level of stress. I can't even imagine. I've not experienced a brain injury of any sort or anything of your journey, but the level of stress that you're going through, the uncertainty, and then being on the other side of that, obviously that I can see how that can be extremely stressful, even if it's not a comment that is profane or super duper vulgar. It can really,
it can. And when you're about to have your throat cut open, that's what you're scared of. You're scared of having your throat cut open. You're not scared of maybe you'll have a scar later. So that was not all that comforting. But
what were some things that were important for you to go through that you didn't anticipate you needed to go through in your healing?
I think the whole transferring I went from a local rehab, like a floor of a hospital that was devoted to rehab, to a specialized brain injury rehab that was about an hour away from my home. When I first got there, I really did not think that I belonged there because everybody was like so sick. And then, it dawned on me that I was so sick too. And I spent 5.5 months there. So that was something that I resisted doing, but in hindsight, absolutely that helped me come home and continue to recuperate and get better.
Now, did you resist because it was hard to accept how much healing you had to do and how sick, quote unquote, that you were?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, everything was difficult. Like just sitting up is not just difficult, but extraordinarily difficult and painful. And then, getting into your wheelchair and going to the little exercise room, which I call the torture room, to my therapist, jokingly. But I mean, just going there and then having them, they had me stand up and walk on this specialized walker. And I remember one time they had me walk forwards and then he's okay, let's walk backwards. I'm like, walk backwards? What, are you crazy? It's like, but he had me walk back and just doing things. It was just really, really hard. And I didn't want, I mean, the last thing you want to be is somebody who needs that kind of help. And so accepting that you needed that kind of help is a huge thing. And then when you get home and you need help in everyday life, I couldn't drive. So I needed people to drive me to my outpatient rehab. I needed people to go to the grocery store for me. Like you just need a lot of help from friends. And that's one of the hardest things for people to do is accept help from friends. And that's one thing that you really learn to do.
And I can only imagine the concern, the fear of losing independence, that in going through rehab and going through exercises that maybe in that moment remind you of how dependent you are. And so I find myself wondering, as you're saying that, if there was a level of resistance of, if I accept that I'm dependent on others, that means I cannot live an independent life, as in this is just the finality of it.
This is forever, right? There's that big fear that this is how it's going to be forever. But then I started going to a rehab, an adaptive physical education program at the school that I worked at. And the instructor there, who's more like a therapist, really pushed me in ways that only he's probably the only person on the planet who could have pushed me that way. Because I totally trusted him. And he had this sixth sense. He would push me so hard that I didn't think I could do it, but then I'll try it anyway and, do it to some degree. And he never made me cry. And that was amazing that he was able to push me that hard. And then you have the sense of accomplishment that you did it. And even though it's not an accomplishment to maybe a lot of other people, it's still an accomplishment to you. And eventually I got back to driving. So I got some of my independence back that way.
That's incredible. We're going to continue on. First, we're going to take a commercial break. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hey there, wellness enthusiasts. Welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today, let's shed some light on a topic that is often misunderstood, adrenal fatigue. Now, adrenal fatigue occurs when your adrenal glands, which are responsible for managing stress, become overwhelmed. Now, this can lead to symptoms like exhaustion, brain fog, and a weakened immune system. So, how can you support your adrenal health? Well, first, prioritize sleep. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality rest each night to give your body a chance to recover. Next, manage stress. Incorporate relaxation techniques like meditation, deep breathing, or gentle yoga into your daily routine. Lastly, don't forget about nutrition. A balanced diet with plenty of whole foods, especially those rich in vitamin C and B vitamins, can support adrenal function. Stay hydrated. Drinking enough water is crucial for overall health and can help your body manage stress more effectively. And lastly, listen to your body. If you're feeling run down, it's okay to take a step back and rest. Your health is your wealth. So by taking these steps, you can support your adrenal health and combat fatigue. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites, and here's to feeling energized and vibrant. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Shari Bookstaff. She is a marine biology professor, also the author of the book, When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice. And she is a survivor and a thriver in so many ways. And Shari, as we were going to break, you were talking about different elements of your recovery. And I am compelled to ask you, what was the most challenging part of your recovery process?
There were a lot of challenging parts, but, trying to get mobile again and walk again, and also just trying to speak again. Because, I was a teacher, so I needed to be able to talk to people. And, being able to, so speaking was really important to me. And it's still challenging. But I had some surgery on my vocal cords, and, that was a challenge. I've had surgery on my eye, because that helps in driving if you don't see double all the time. So, and there's a lot of challenging things. I would say, mobility and speaking, which is a lot of things.
Now, the relationship you have with yourself and how you perceive your abilities, your talents, who you are as your future self. What were some things that help you stay connected to your future self, to where you didn't get lost in the staring at the rear view mirror and
Right.
looking at what happened before you had your brain tumor, but what allowed you to connect with your future self and keep positive and leaning forward?
Right. What really helped was actually writing the book, because the book started off as like emails from friends in the middle of the night. And, it started off as just a venting of, what was going on. But then when I realized I wanted to make it into a book, you have to add some positivity to it. So it kind of forced me to look at all sides of it. And, writing the book was very cathartic, and it really did make a huge impact on how I saw myself and how I lived my life.
I want to talk about the book. The book is called When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice. Talk about that process of where you're putting pen to pad and you made it happen.
Right. Well, the title, first I need to talk about the title, because that's obviously a little bit odd. When life throws you lemons, make lemonade is what people say to you. And trust me, people said that to me. And they said, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. God won't throw you anything you can't handle. You should smile more. You got to be more positive. All of the cliches were said to me. And some of those you might need to hear, and they might need to be said. But when people said those to me, I wanted to punch him in the face. So when I went to write my book, I made a satirical twist on that saying. Instead, when life throws you lemons, make lemonade, make cranberry juice. Because you can't make lemonade from lemons. When you get literal about it, you can't make lemonade from lemons. When you squeeze lemons into a cup, you get lemon juice. And that's not good to drink. But when I was a naturalist on a cruise about a year before my brain surgery, and two of the drinks that were free were lemonade and cranberry juice. And I found that when you mix them together, they taste really good. So the way that I see this saying is that life is always going to throw you lemons. You're always going to have bad things happen to you. But instead of trying to twist them into something positive, you need to accept your cranberries, which are the sweet things in life. And by accepting those cranberries, those sweet things, and they're totally unrelated to the lemons, but they put you in a different frame of mind, so that then you can go back and deal with the lemons. The lemons are never going to go away. They'll still be there. But I promise you that if you put them on a shelf and enjoy a song on the radio that you love, the lemons will still be there, but you'll be in a better place to deal with them. So that's where the title started.
Gotcha. How long did it take to write the book? And what is, can you talk about a favorite chapter of yours?
That's interesting, because once I got a contract to actually write the book, I committed myself to a certain number of, and I don't remember the number, but I committed myself to a certain number of words a day to write, which is tough. And if anybody out there is writing a book, just write. I promise you can go back and edit it later. Just write, think of a story and tell it, and tell the story. So just telling stories. My favorite chapter in the book, wow, I think it's the last one. I redid the book in 2020. I first wrote it in 2010. So everything was pretty fresh. And I updated it in 2020. And I added a chapter at the end with what I'm doing, now. And I think that's my favorite chapter, is the update. So I guess I do like, and that is just coming to me right now. So I guess I do like my life more now than I did then. But the new chapter has some stories about meeting my favorite football player, stories about seeing whales, stories about, what I'm doing now. So I think that really is my favorite chapter. And the
Okay, I
first
have to.
chapter, Life Before the Brain Tumor.
Yes. So a bunch of questions are just are brewing for me. So you wrote this in 2010, and I didn't
Yes.
ask you before, what year did your brain tumor happen?
2006.
2006. So 4 years later, you wrote
Yes.
the book, and then in 2020 you revised it.
I revised it,
Who's
yes.
your favorite football player?
Steve Young of the 49ers.
Okay, San Francisco 49ers.
Won our last Super Bowl in 1995. So, and
Yes.
I've met him several times. So,
Now, obviously, in the video segment, we had there was a quick picture of you that you were in the end zone. Talk a little bit about that, because obviously, anyone who is somewhat familiar with the NFL knows that the end zone signifies that
it's
either
not
you're
that
on the.
easy to get to.
Yes.
For that game, my daughter and I go to at least one game a year. And when Steve Young was doing the Monday night games, I always wore my Steve Young jersey. So I'm wearing my Steve Young jersey. And my service dog is also wearing the Steve Young jersey. And we've met him so many times that he's like, he knows us. He's like, oh, hi, guys. And he has signed my dog's jersey too, as well as my jersey. So in that one, we got access to the field just by signing up for something. We got access to the field, and we were just playing on the field and just sitting down on the grass and just having fun. And we did meet Steve first. Then he went after he left. We went and played on the grass.
Well, that's fantastic that you have that memory, and that he is that he's someone he recognizes
Right.
you, he's seen you before, so that level of that how do you call it, that relatability, that closeness, the engaging with
He
the
was very
community, with
engaging.
fans,
Yes.
is super huge. So I had to ask you about that. But I love the concept behind the book, because when you ask, when life throws you lemons, you make cranberry juice. One thing, if I can share, I always like to share excerpts in books, because I'd like for the audience to get a taste of what value and what nuggets you bring to the table. And so you wrote something here regarding hope and suicide. And you wrote the top paragraph. I'd like to read it. And it says, hope should be a 4-letter word. Okay, it's a 4-letter word. I thought hope was useless until I heard my 10-year-old son explain it to me. He said that I should keep hoping that I would get better. Even if I don't see results every day, I should keep on hoping. To illustrate that sometimes hoping works, he pulled out a toy out of his pocket and said, see, I hope that you would find the toy. And here it is. I absolutely believe that you have to keep working hard and moving forward. You can't rely on hoping, wishing, praying, or the tooth fairy to get results. But my son reminded me that it's not only okay, but also very important to hope for what you want. Can you talk a little bit about that, of the conceptualization of hope and how it can help us
Yes.
and be that useful tool?
And hope is very important. What I say now too about having goals, that you should shoot for more than you can get. And I say that in the book too, that you should shoot for, if you get 10% of everything that you want, well, isn't it better to want $10 million than to want $10 if you're only going to get 10%? So, you got to shoot for the stars, hope for more than you're going to get. And, but hoping, not just passive hoping, but active hoping. So you have to work for it too. And if you work really hard for everything that you want, you'll get some of it. You won't get all of it, but you won't get none of it. But without even hoping for it, without even wanting it, you're not going to get any of it. So you have to at least want it and hope for it and try for it. And, my son did absolutely, he doesn't remember this, but he absolutely said that. He also said that he doesn't want me to just be able to walk. He wants me to be able to run down the street carrying bricks. And I clearly remember him saying that. So, yes, I can't do that really, but I do work out every day with weights. So, again, I got to some level of that. Not everything that I hoped for, but some level of that. And that's Really important to know that you're not going to get it all and be okay that you're not going to get it all. But know that if you don't want any of it, you're not going to get anything.
And you had mentioned before that your kids have been instrumental in you healing and thriving after this chapter in your life.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit more about the value that they brought to your healing process within motherhood, beyond motherhood, that your takeaways from their presence in you healing?
Right. Well, it's interesting because when you're a mom, you take care of them. And this was really a true role reversal because when they first came home from the hospital, they did the laundry, they had to make dinner every night. They did all of these adult things that I could not do. But as soon as I came home, they wanted to come back and live with me. So they were up for that challenge, but they had to really take care of me. They had to take care of mom. And there were times when I was, emotionally really in a dark place, and they had to deal with that too. So it's one thing to deal with a physical, disability, but when I was, and there are times in that chapter called Hope and Suicide that, I was in a really dark place, and you have to find a way to get out of it. And, my kids found a way to help me get out of it, and I found ways to help myself get out of it.
Do they know how much today? Have you had those conversations where they can recall just those point way? Maybe, of course, everything, because as we're younger, we oftentimes don't find or remembering all the things that we've gone through. But are they able to reflect and have their takeaways? Have they verbalized how they're able to take that with them into adulthood?
They remember some of it. My son was only 8 at the time. He doesn't remember a whole lot. Like, he doesn't remember. It's a little bit sad because he doesn't remember me before the brain tumor. So he doesn't remember what I was like before the brain tumor, which, I've come to just accept that's the way it is. But, my daughter certainly remembers everything. And I remember her being in my hospital room. Like, I remember certain things about her visits, even though I was non-responsive. So, there are things that I think they remember but we don't really talk about that time. Everything's, about solving today's problems and, having today's fun and doing today's things. And they're both, grown up and have their own jobs and their own lives. So, it's not all about me anymore.
What were some surprising nuggets in addition to the book? Was there something that was a bonus, something that was a positive that you were able to derive from this experience that you didn't expect would turn out to be a positive?
That's a tough one because I try not to twist things to make them into positives. But, I certainly spent more time with my kids after this. So that might be a positive. And starting to figuring out a way to have my life have a greater impact on the world. I think that was a positive. So, the projects that I'm involved in now, I never would have done them if this hadn't happened to me. Because I do things with the medical community, and I never was into helping the medical community. Sorry, medical community, but I was kind of always afraid of the medical community. So it never would have occurred to me to go work with them in a non-medical way. So I think the projects I'm involved in now are the biggest bonus.
Before we go to our next break, I wanted to ask you quickly so that I can see those connections of your experience and being able to have that connection with those who are in a clinical setting, in a medical setting. What was some of the feedback that you heard as you're stepping to this role and sharing good takeaways for them to learn from you?
Oh, they love it. I mean, they find that I offer tips that they can use on their very next patient. And I've even seen some of these students, a year or two later after I've talked to them, and they still remember details of what I said, and they still use the tips that I gave them. One student that I ran into pretty recently said that the one thing that she really remembers is that when somebody can't communicate, it doesn't mean they can't hear you. So she used that with somebody who, she knew was really scared to be where he was, but couldn't vocalize that. And she knew that he felt scared. And so she still talked to him in a soothing voice and, still showed all the empathy that needed to be shown, even though she wasn't positive that he could accept it.
Very, very powerful. We're going to take a commercial break. Stay put. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about. And we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Shari Bookstaff is my guest today. She's a marine biology professor, author of the book, When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice. She's also a speaker and a presenter. And Shari, as we were going to break, you were touching on the impact your kids have made and then also the takeaways in your healing journey from this brain tumor that has allowed you to evolve into the space of connecting and communicating, sharing your message with those in a clinical setting and beyond. And I do want to bring up your mantras. So I know we have a little split screen with mantras that you've often shared. And so as we're bringing that up, can you talk a little bit about what we see here and how that is the foundation of the space that you represent today?
Right. These are actually mantras that also help me get through some of these really dark times. And they were so helpful to me that I actually made up an acronym, Get Charged, where the CHA is for they're not in order, I'm sorry about that, but focus on what you can change. So always don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you do have and what you can change, what you can control. And there's always something, no matter what your lemon is, there's always something you can control and can change. The R is for resources. Do the best you can with the resources that you have. Again, everybody has limited resources. Whether you're limited financially, limited socially, limited physically, there's some kind of limitation. But there's other resources that you do have. And I like to tell my students this too, that just because they're not good at one thing, there's something else they're good at. So always have resources that you do have that you can make the most of and do the best you can with. Modify your goals, but stay true to yourself. This one comes from every motivational speaker says, never give up on your goals. get there. And I'm saying, and also motivational speakers are saying, have goals you can achieve. And I'm saying, have these goals that are far off that you can't possibly achieve. But also don't be afraid to modify them. But stay true to yourself. At one point, and this is where one of my kids really helped me get over things. At one point, I was so just not, I'm never going to be myself again. And I have a jacket that has whales all over it. And I was just going to give that away. I'm like, what's the point of wearing this? And she said, you might be the same, different on the outside, but you're the same on the inside. And that statement made me not give up my whale jacket. So I still wear that today. So modify your goals, but stay true to yourself. When I went back to teaching, I couldn't stand up in front of a class and lecture for an hour 3 times a week, but I could teach online. I like teaching online. And I still taught my animals class. I still taught my marine biology class. So I modified the way that I went back to teaching, but I still went back as myself and in the stuff that I love to do. And the last one, don't be afraid to try something new and difficult. Well, all of these phrases are over pictures that I've taken. And that one specifically over those dolphins where you can see the head of the dolphin. Like I know that it's not, National Geographic quality, but if you've ever gone whale watching, it's really hard to get a picture of dolphins and see the head of a dolphin. And I did that on one of my first whale watching trips after my surgery, which was really hard. And I had to use all of the mantras just to get on that boat that was moving. The last one is more of the inspiration is a spark that takes your breath away. Is also self-motivation. You have to recognize what your own spark is. Everybody has a different spark that will motivate you to do things. And for me, it was this, picture of whales in front of a glacier. And it still takes my breath away just to think about that and see that. And that's going to motivate you. Again, as a giant cranberry, that will motivate you to go on and work for your goals and work hard for your goals. And one thing I tell my students, the ones who are, taking it, who I'm talking to medical students about, is that they need to find that spark in their patient so that they can connect to their patients. So if they can find the spark in their patient, then they'll have something to talk about without being just medical speak all the time.
One thing I love about what you're saying is I can sense this level of initiative that I'm determined to keep moving forward. And so with all of the mantras that you shared, you had to have a level of that re-entering the college setting and being able to still hold space as a professor, giving value to students who are coming in to learn. And, and I think that that's incredibly impressive because that's a decision nobody told you that, you should or shouldn't. It was a decision that you made.
Right. And, that is nice to hear because it is definitely a self-motivational kind of thing. And it's not something that a lot of other people that I see doing. But when I came out of this, I call it my brain vacation. When I came back after my brain vacation and, I had all these experiences, a lot of negative ones and some positive ones. And I knew that I do have the ability to speak. I realized that most people who come out of something that I went through do not have that ability to speak. And I have that ability to speak, and I have an experience as an educator. I know that education is the key to everything. So I thought I could use those resources that I do have to go out and try to make a difference in the lives of healthcare professionals and the patients that they serve.
Extremely powerful. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today is Shari Bookstaff. She's a marine biology professor. She's also author of the book When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice, and she has been spending time with us, sharing incredible nuggets of how to overcome obstacles, really shine in your resilience. Shari, where can people find you?
Well, I have two organizations that I run. One is a nonprofit called Lifetime of Impact. And through that organization, I go out and speak to students, healthcare students, medical students, allied health students. I've expanded it to talk to microbiology students who are probably going to go into healthcare. So any students, and if you're within the San Francisco Bay Area, I would love to come out in person. If you're not, I would love to do it on Zoom. And you can reach me at lifetimeofimpact.com. And if you go to that website, you'll be able to see. So if you teach any kind of a healthcare class, I would love to talk to you about how I can help your students. And that's all for free. I get donations, and it's all for free to come with that. The other company that I run is called Impact of Empathy. And for that one, I speak to healthcare professionals and other professionals, because you need empathy in any kind of a leadership role. But I'm focusing on healthcare. And for that, you can reach me at impactofempathy.net. And I'd be happy to talk more about anything if you'd like to talk to me. You can reach me at this.
Yes, and what about social media? Where are you on social media?
I'm on pretty much everything. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now X, Instagram. I guess that's not everything because I'm old, so I don't know about all the other ones, but I'm on those. Instagram, I think I mentioned them all: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
Yes, and
I'm not on TikTok.
Okay, one last question I do have for you is, how do you take care of yourself? In a nutshell, what are three areas that you touch on to best take care of yourself?
First thing is doing my fitness class every day, and I try to do it 6 days a week. So you end up doing it. Well, a lot of weeks I do it 6 days a week, but a lot of weeks it's only 4 or 5 days a week, which is, your goal is 6 and you do 4. That's fine. So I do a fitness class every day, and actually that is the fitness class that is presented on Zoom, and it's a CrossFit class for people with disabilities. So it's been a great community. It's called Staying Driven, if anybody wants to look that up. So that's number one, is I, do get myself out of bed every day and do my fitness class. And then, emotionally, really talking to, giving these presentations just really does lift up my mood. And it's tough to be in a bad mood or a bad place while you're presenting. And you kind of have to fake it, even if you're not. And that does put you in a better mood. So it's fun for me. I also will go out to the beach and, go watch the sunset or keep a journal. And all of those things will help maintain my mood and talk me out of those bad moods.
That's fantastic. The book is called When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice. And this is available online or wherever books are sold online, Amazon and such.
Amazon, yes.
Absolutely. Shari Bookstaff, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your inspiration. You bring so much value to the table. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. And for all our viewers, of course, you can find our website on the internet, thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also email us with any show ideas that you might have that you would love for us to cover. And we'd love to do that. In the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see the QR code. You can grab that in a quick heartbeat. And then, of course, as always, every week we are on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. That is all the time that we have. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.